TYT Sports, everybody, Ben Mankiewicz and young Jason Rubin. Panthers 14-0. This is a question that comes up every year. It matters little as far as the competitive nature of the game and who's going to win the Super Bowl, but everybody's really interested. Should a 14-0 team, and in this case, should the Carolina Panthers, should they rest their starters at least in the final week, in Week 17, which is Game 16 of the NFL season? We know they're not going to do it next week. They've already said they aren't, and they shouldn't, because they unbelievably have not clinched home field advantage. If the Panthers and Cardinals both end the year 14-2, the Cardinals win that tiebreaker. So, but the Panthers go to Atlanta next week, and then they're home against Tampa Bay. I think it's safe to say, if they make an effort, they're not going to lose 2 games. It doesn't seem like it. But look, it's still, let's not forget, there's not much difference between 14-0 and 13-1 or 12-2. Like, there's a lot of luck involved in the NFL, and you know, they haven't fumbled at the wrong time. They haven't given up a punt return, a freak punt return for a touchdown. They haven't had a crazy thing happen to them at a, you know, are the Panthers tangibly better than the Patriots healthy? Are they infinitely better than the, who else is there? Than the Cardinals?
Yes,
we don't know.
I mean, the Packers, like,
we don't know.
They're a
right.
mess, but
we don't know whether they're one of the best teams. So, so that's to say that, like, you know, we just saw the Falcons were an underdog. Jacksonville, I got it. But, I mean, are the Falcons capable of putting up 34, 38 points at home? Yeah, they could. And if they score 38 points at home next week against the Panthers, they could win that game. I doubt it, but they could.
I'm not going to make any predictions as to whether they're going to go 16-0 or not. But what I would say is, if they do win next week and they lock up home field advantage, you know, it might not be a terrible idea to at least tell Cam Newton, stay in the pocket, man. Don't scramble outside the pocket. Don't try to go for the extra 5 yards unless you can, like, get a clean slide off. Because the last thing you want is Cam Newton, although he's a LeBron James-sized train, freak athlete, he's going to be avoiding injuries probably a lot of the time just because he's physically built to be a linebacker who plays the quarterback position.
Yeah, you know, I can argue both of these sides.
And maybe you rest some guys. Maybe you give, you know, free safety, strong safety a day off, or you have them play half a game.
I would rest guys who are nursing injuries. I would rest guys, unquestionably. I don't think there is a debate about whether you rest guys who would benefit from the rest. So it's not a negative. You're not fearing a negative.
Like
You're not
guys
fearing
that
the
go
injury.
In questionable with an ankle injury.
Just guys who, I mean, look, it's the NFL. Guys like who have, like, every week I am in pain. And would it help that if I didn't play for 2 straight weeks, which is what happens because you got to bye the next week? So essentially, you're giving them 3 weeks in between games.
A little bit of fresh.
Then I'd do that for those guys. You know, the Panthers are clearly deep, and you know, and it's not like they're moving in most positions guys who can't play. But that said, one of the reasons the Panthers have had a great year is because they've been largely injury-free. Their depth has not been significantly tested.
You know, I would also credit a lot of their 14-0 to the fact that Ron Rivera is a very good coach. And
Clearly.
There's not many of those in the NFL. We know that there's maybe 5.
He was. But he, you know, Jenk would argue, and he makes it great with it, Ron Rivera flipped a switch. Like, he was tentative and afraid, and then he thought, no, I'm going for it. And that Riverboat Ron nickname came up. And as we said in Turks and Jerks, it's a mentality. Like, now Ron Rivera thinks 4th and 2, midfield on in, I have Cam Newton.
100%.
I'm usually going for it. Maybe there'll be a situation where I'll punt because of the circumstances of the game, but mostly I'll go for it. So I wonder how that influences a decision of a 15-0 team getting the Bucs at home.
This is all without, you know, the Kelvin Benjamin storyline that was now the Panthers have no wide receivers.
Ted Ginn, I'm talking about Ted Ginn Jr., not Senior. Ted Ginn is a special teams player and 5th wide receiver. Like, that was his rep. That's who he was. And all of a sudden, he's making a little step out, slant in move, catching a bullet pass on his hip on 3rd and 9 for 11 yards. I mean, you know, Funchess is developing and developing.
And Greg Olsen, he's a dominant tight end in the NFL.
And Greg
Olsen's a monster. He's a monster.
The second best tight end.
The tight end position has become the most deadly position in all of NFL offenses.
Jordan Reed, you know, you look at
2 touchdowns last week.
But so there is something to the gambling mentality of Rivera that might go, I got it. There is logic to rest some starters. And I'm sure he'll rest guys who are nursing injuries. I think any coach would rest guys who are nursing injuries.
Regardless.
But if you're basically healthy, my hunch is he's going to say, we're 15-0. We have a chance to be 19-0. That's history. I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
now, they get ahead in the midway through the third quarter, they get comfortable, I'd start pulling guys because you don't want.
Well, there's that, and then the other, at least with the Panthers, 16-0 is, hasn't been done. 19-0 has never been done before. The Patriots came close, very close. But having said all of it, I don't know. I don't believe in the Panthers winning the Super Bowl. I really don't even believe the Panthers can make it. And I could be so wrong about this. And I hate making these predictions.
But the Panthers believe in it.
That's just true.
And they're the ones making the decision.
But I was going to say that you've mentioned multiple times that if you gamble too much in any aspect of sports, you're going to eventually lose. And I love that Ron Rivera calls the plays the way he does and goes for it on fourth down and refuses to punt and all that. But is that eventually going to backfire? Could that be his Achilles heel?
It might backfire, but ultimately I think that attitude, that aggressive attitude
is more winning than losing.
Right, more winning than losing. Of course sometimes it's going to backfire. The key is, like a good cornerback, when it does backfire, when Josh Norman gets beat. I mean, we saw Josh Norman got beat on that 50-yard, what should have been a 50-yard touchdown early in the game. It didn't seem to affect Josh Norman afterwards. He was like, yeah, that guy beat me. He's not going to beat me again. Yeah. But whatever decision you make, it's understandable. Obviously, resting people in the NFL in a game where devastating injury, we saw what happened to Tyrann Mathieu, what happened to Mathieu at the end of the Cardinals Eagles game.
I didn't see that game.
He made a pick and stepped funny, and it looked like he tore his knee. We haven't, as of early this morning, there was no word yet. So I get it either way if you bench your starters. I have always thought that because the bye week is there, that you're talking about not playing your starters in week 17, and then they don't play the following week because there's a bye. And when you were going good, I feel like taking that much time off is a danger that coaches don't consider enough. So I would lean toward playing those guys until the game is decided, and then I'd pull them. And you know what? It's the NFL. You might get hurt. There's no question you might get hurt. But if Cam Newton, as you said, goes out of the pocket on instinct and runs and takes a hit and separates his shoulder while in the second quarter of a game against the Buccaneers, it's going to look like the dumbest decision in the world. But it's pretty magical to have a chance to go 19-0. Yeah. It's almost because we would all agree that they'll rest them if they're 14-1. Right? Because who cares? 15-1, 14-2.
Yeah, unless there's a home field advantage on the line.
I know. I'm saying if the game is meaningless, if there's no advantage to be gained, and is it enough to have that advantage be the difference between 16-0 and 15-1? I'm kind of talking myself out of it, but I don't like taking that much time off for starters and a game that requires timing, where the timing is so valuable.
By the way, they even look that mad at each other.
They don't look that mad at each other. I'm just amazed that guy lost his cool that much in a big game. But man, what a great football game that ended up being. Obviously, I'm talking about the Texans-Colts.
Right. Anyway, you'll take us out with a dab.
It's thrilling, right? Like, were the Colts going to go 90 yards for a touchdown? Was that ball at the end that Matt Hasselbeck threw 40 yards away from any Colt receiver? Who was going to catch it?
I feel like you rewatched this game. Will you take us out with a dab, Mike?
A dab?
A dab. Cam Newton's celebration.
What's it? I don't know. Was that what it?
That's when he does the.
That's a dab?
That's a dab.
No, I don't. No, I won't.
Well, you did.
I guess
you
I
just did.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Subscribe.